We auction house are from time to time seen only as just trying to make money. We're here to make money. But when you are able to a little bit change the perception on an artist, this is so important.
Sotheby's is the temporary custodian of some of the world's most rare, remarkable and coveted art and objects. In each episode, we'll be exploring the significance and journey of an extraordinary work told by those who know it best. This is The Specialist. On today's episode, the story of Grégoire Billault's personal relationship with Pierre Soulages and his long-standing commitment to the promotion of the artist to a global audience. This culminated in the sale of a work that Grégoire had followed for over 20 years, where he skillfully navigated market dynamics to achieve a remarkable result. Grégoire is Sotheby's chairman of contemporary art in New York, having previously headed up the department in his native France. Let's join Grégoire now with more.
Pierre was born in 1919, so you talk to someone who has seen basically a lot of things and who has been active until 2021, who's starting in a place where culture was everything, where Paris and France was the cultural center of the world. And he's from a generation that's going to see that center move away from Paris and go to New York. He's coming from such a tradition of very important artists, and especially between the Impressionists to the Cubists. And to have a French artist after those movements create this body of works is actually quite unique. Coming from this tiny village in the middle of nowhere, it's even more astonishing to have someone who has been building this amazing corpus of works at that time, in that place, in that country. He's very quickly also a proper leading figure in what we call École de Paris, which is this abstract school. But he's the only one that is going to very quickly be seen and admired in America. His art is very much linked to what we're going to call the New York School or the abstract expressionist. Probably main thing to remember with Pierre Soulages is obviously his attraction to black. The main focus for him was how black was reflecting light and how through only black you could create very different ways of depicting a place, a size, an emotion. He creates those movements through light which are quite unique actually and very different from what other painters from the same generation are doing in New York. Later on will come Outre Noir, which is the second part of his career where suddenly the black is going to take over the entire canvas. Outre Noir can be translated as beyond black, very heavy texture of black paint. Soulages is, as a French art lover, someone that you know, that you see on a regular basis. But when I was asked to start building contemporary art sales at Sotheby's in Paris, obviously I felt that if there was one artist I should look at in order to create a market momentum would be Pierre Soulages. And discussing with one of my colleagues in Italy, she told me that she knew one great Soulages painting in Italy that someone would be probably ready to part with, an absolute stunner from 1959. So we took it with an estimate of 300,000 to 400,000 euros, which was quite a large estimate for Pierre Soulages. We decided to put on the cover. And then through discussions, I could see that there was really an appetite for his work. Long story short, the bidding lasted like 5 minutes. We sold it for €1,200,000, which was like 3 times the previous world record. There was a proper boost on this market and the recognition of the entire art market that, yeah, it was an important picture, an important painter. Pierre Soulages called me after the sale. I didn't know him at the time, saying he wanted to see me. And so I was able to visit him in Paris to his studio. I went also a few times to Sète, to the house that he built in the south of France, close to Montpellier. The man was as exciting as his works, which is quite rare. I really try usually to not interact too much with artists because I just want to be so focused on their craft and not who they are. Soulages is probably, as we say in French, l'exception qui confirme la règle, like the exception that confirms the rule. He was as smart and interesting and kind and beautiful as his pictures are. When I met him, he was already 90-something, and his house was only black concrete. He was so knowledgeable and at the same time very simple in every way. In the way he would talk or address anyone, You feel at peace with himself. The last time I saw him, he was 96. We had lunch for like 3 hours with fantastic wine. There was no demonstration or no trying to impress. A bit like his picture, like embracing the moment. He would always give you time, which is quite rare. Being a Soulages fan for the longest time and working for Sotheby's, my job is to try to approach and convince collectors to sell with us. And there's a small group of pictures from 1960-61 where Soulages is going to use a red, or it's a dark red, but it's not black. He did the same a little bit with blue in those years, using an extra color as black. And of those small group of pictures that use red, most of them are in museums. But I know that one was still with a private French collector, which he bought in the late 80s, at the time already for record price. So I've been chasing this picture for quite some time. So after making the record in 2006, I was able to contact or start engaging major Soulages collectors. And in 2009, that great collector called me to say, I'm ready to sell one of my Soulages. So he consigned this one, 8212, sold for close to 2 million euros, great price, everyone is happy. And then fast forward, he says, you know what, I think I'm going to be ready to let go the masterpiece, the red one. So we are discussing where we can sell this picture. And when we start discussing, it's already 2018, 2019. I'm now the head of the department in New York. And I'm like, if there's one last thing I can do for Soulages after making records in France, is to bring Pierre Soulages in a proper evening sale, contemporary art in New York, and make it one of the stars of the sale. So at the time, the record for Soulages, there was one picture that sold for $10 million. So we approached with an $8 to $12 million estimate. And we had 7 bidders. And it finally sold for $20 million. So the world record was multiplied by 2. But I think that was just the recognition of someone who has been a little bit left on the side, especially in America, for the last 25 years, and was finally recognized the proper way. The other element, which was also very exciting for me, is that the buyer and the underbidder were not French. So there was also a proper element for me of a little bit of pride to have really enlarged and have people from all around the globe paying attention to him. So that was also a nice last little message to Pierre. And at the time, he was more than 100 and he was having difficulties speaking. But I was able to send messages that I know he saw, and I was able to read. I mean, his assistant was telling me that he saw my messages and could read them. He saw the images also of having his picture next to the Nafea in the Sotheby's New York sales room. And that was, that was a great moment. And that's how you change market. I was able to say to anyone asking me, don't ask me to find another one if you are the underbidder. I will not be able to find another one. So don't tell me how far should I go on this picture. This is a unique opportunity. I will never, ever be able to bring another one of that caliber. It's one of the larger size, and it's one of the only one from the red series to be available. The condition was also absolutely amazing. So I was really able to say to the entire collecting community, please don't call me the following day to ask, can you find me another one? There's none. And I think the message went through clearly. So that's why it made so much money, is that I told people, like, no, don't call me after. There will not be a second one. The main legacy of a sale like this one is please try to look outside the box. And there's amazing artists that you can look at that have yet to be recognized. But if you do your job and explain why this is so important and this is so beautiful and why this is so rare and why this is going to change a collection for someone who wants to pay attention, that's what, for me, matters the most. And I think we do this job for that moment. Make people aware that something else exists. And yes, abstract expressionist has to be American, but at least there was one French guy that I believe played a little role there.
Thank you for joining us on The Specialist. This has been brought to you by Sotheby's Financial Services. SFS offers asset-based loans to unlock the value of your fine art, automobiles, and other luxury collectibles. To step further into the world of Sotheby's, visit any one of our galleries, which are open to the public. Go to sotheby's.com to to find out more.